IBM has a legacy of working with creatives like Paul Rand, Charles and Ray Eames, and Ansel Adams. Back in 2018, they asked me to document and photograph their research facilities over what ended up being about 6 years. The first shoot of this whole project started in May 2018. My lighting director, David, and I flew to San Francisco and began scouting and eventually started shooting at Almaden, which is one of IBM Research's facilities. I had very little understanding going into this project what was actually being done at Almaden and what type of work that they were doing. So this was a really fun and interesting project to get dropped right into, because as I made my way through the research facility and started meeting people and asking them what they were up to, I learned a lot about what kind of work that they were doing there. I found that it was highly collaborative. People would wander into each other's offices or drag a whiteboard outside so that they could do their work in the fresh air. There's groups of friends who would go on walks every day to chat through the bits and pieces of work that they were feeling stumped on. It kind of felt almost like an open air sort of forum for people to chat out their ideas with each other and also experience the extremely beautiful landscape surrounding the facility. So this first set of days that we spent at Almaden were really exploratory and really just mostly reacting to things in real time and meeting people and asking them what meetings they had later on and when we might be doing something in their lab or collaborating. But at this point in time, we're not even imagining that this is going to be a book. For me, truly at this point, this is just a really fun assignment. And at this point, I only know that I'm going to shoot this one and then the next one. The in-house creatives at IBM Research had me come in for a meeting and explained their idea for a body of work that they had and were interested in having me photograph for the brand. They showed me this book called Inside CERN. Basically, this photographer was given access to CERN. They have a hydrogen particle accelerator. It's well known for being a place where highly technical work gets done at like an atomic level. And so it's just full of people who are scientists and researchers and are operating and inventing this technology. So anyway, what I saw in the book is that there was a more human approach to the work in terms of not just focusing on the tech. The cover itself is kind of funny. You have this person who works at CERN and looks like any other guy trying to figure out how to make the coffee machine work. Their brief to me basically was to show the inner workings and spaces and people who made up IBM Research, focused more on research and innovation. The second facility that we visited was Zurich in June of 2018. David and I did exactly what we had done at Almaden in California, but at a different facility. The signs on offices, door handles, public spaces, everything was a little bit different and modified for being in a totally different environment, which I feel gave this kind of visual kind of diversity to the book. This process of shooting in Zurich was me and David showing up every day and just kind of being taken on this adventure throughout IBM Research and again reacting to a lot of what we saw. So going into clean rooms where we had to completely suit up. It was cool to be able to back to back see these two different facilities that operated in a similar way but just had a completely different visual style to them. In May of 2022, several years later, I traveled to London on a different IBM job. All this time in between, I had been photographing projects for IBM, not necessarily for this project, but for the IBM brand. One of the photographs from London actually made it into the book, even though it didn't take place at Almaden, Zurich, or Yorktown. I stopped by the photographer's gallery to see a show, and in the shop, I picked up this book by Stephen Algren. It was an incredible book of photographs from offices in the early 2000s, I think, for the most part. I've always just loved office aesthetics. I don't know what that is, but I loved how this photographer showed ordinary office life in a beautiful and kind of painterly way. Anytime that I find something out in the world that seems to either help inform or better define or at least serve as some kind of even small piece of inspiration, I usually try to take that with me and support the artist who might have caused some of that inspiration. So in the summer of 2022, I make my first visit to Yorktown, which is an IBM research facility in the Hudson Valley. Fast forward to the summer of 2024, the IBM research creative team comes to me to do an additional shoot at Yorktown where we have a little bit more flexibility to fill in any gaps that we didn't get before. When the second shoot at Yorktown wraps up, we start to get a little bit more serious about, okay, what if we did make a book? What would that look like? So after gathering info on my vision and what I think this book could be, IBM Research signs off on making this book, which is super, super exciting because this is one of my favorite projects that I've had the chance to work on. I've been working on this for 6 years at this point, and I've been looking at the work over the years, and I know that there's something here that could come together really, really nicely for a book. So my first instinct is to start thinking about a publisher. My first thought is to go to Actual Source. So Actual Source is a design studio and publisher based out of Provo, Utah, and they publish all kinds of incredible art books. And they're sort of industry leaders in the world of publishing and design. So I really wanted to go to people I trusted and I knew would usher this book into the world with a lot of consideration and respect for the design history and brand legacy of IBM. The collaboration between IBM Research, Flowers, and Actual Source started with 3 shirts that we released. We wanted the book launch to feel tangible, something that people could wear and share even before the book existed and kind of build hype a little bit around the project. One design features the server rack from one of the photos that I took. Another has the flower motif that I drew in my notebook that eventually became our studio's logo. The merch ended up not just being part of the marketing and the hype building, but it became a really big part of the project itself. The first run ended up selling out, so we did a second production, and now they're stocked in shops across the US and Japan and throughout the world. So in the fall of 2024, I start looking back through every image I've shot for the project, collecting the ones that I have already worked on and become really acquainted with already, and new pictures that I think might fit really well with the book. They take all those images, they print all of them out, and they start sequencing and putting pictures next to each other, seeing what happens when we put this photo next to this photo, and then, they're just kind of trying to figure out what pictures should go in the book, and generally, how do we think this should flow? We get into cover iterations, so we're discussing what books we think should go on the cover. We're looking at cover designs, looking at what kind of typeface we want to use. How should the hierarchy of the text work? Should we reference IBM with the typeface? We're then choosing, okay, what is the final image? It needs to be an image that can work well on the cover and can really hold the cover together. This empty book is the dummy, the sort of mock-up of what you imagine your book is going to look like in the end. So this gives us a sense of the physical size, material, paper, how we want the binding to look, what kind of color tape to use for the binding, what color end papers. All of these things are decisions that we are making while other things are happening, such as proofs going to the printer, and these proofs get mailed to us from the printer. We take a look and assess what needs tweaking. So I remember in an earlier round, we needed a bit more saturation. Something that we did is I took notes on my side, Actual Source did the same. Actual Source and I figured out, okay, yeah, we agree. This needs to be a little warmer or a little cooler, and then the printer would go make those changes and then send us the next proof. The result is this book. This is a sense of what went into it, what it was like to get the commission, start photographing the work, visiting multiple locations, getting an understanding of IBM Research, the types of people who had spent so much of their career there, pitching the book idea, finding the publisher and the right partner, and then bringing it all together. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a background on what it's like to shoot, sequence, edit, and publish a body of work. If you're a commercial photographer or producer and need help pricing your work, I recommend checking out BaseRate for calculating usage and building budgets. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more and let us know what you think in the comments.